Here is a claim, sold to you gently. This is a passion project. A woman sharing what she loves. Jam from the heart, honey as a gift. That is the promise printed on every launch. So tonight we test it. We take that promise and we set it beside the one thing that never performs for a camera, the paperwork. And the paperwork tells a colder story than the caption ever will. This is the story of a brand that still cannot do the simplest thing a business does, own its own name. Because here, when the news gets loud, the shop gets busy. Here is what you will have by the end. You will know how old this business truly is. You will know the one legal step it still has not finished after all this time. And you will know why the day it chose to launch this week matters more than the honey inside the jar. I am not here to tell you what to buy. I am here to hand you the record, then you reach the verdict. Let us start with who this is and why you already care. The Duchess of Sussex is not a stranger to any of you. Many of you watched her wedding in 2018 live on a bright May morning. You watched the carriage, you watched the crowds. Whatever you feel about her now, you were there for the start. So, when she builds a business around warmth and home and family, it touches something real. That is fair, that is human, and it is exactly why the paperwork matters more here, not less, because warmth is the story being sold, and a story is the one thing a receipt can check. Now the standard, because every verdict needs one, a business at its most basic does two things. It sells something, and it owns the name it sells under. That second part is not a technicality. It is the front door. It is the thing that stops anyone else using your name and stops you being told to stop using it yourself. A real business locks that door early. That is the standard. Hold it in your mind because we are about to measure a very famous brand against it. Go back to early 2024. The Duchess announced the lifestyle brand. She called it American Riviera Orchard. It arrived as something personal, small batch jams, spreads, a woman sharing her table, beautiful images, a soft, warm launch. The promise was clear. This is a passion, not a machine. And for a while, that promise was all anyone had to go on because the product was not for sale yet. There was only the name and the feeling. Then the paperwork started talking. And the paperwork does not care about feeling. The United States Trademark Office looked at the name and said no. The reason was simple. American Riviera is a nickname for a place. It is Santa Barbara, where she lives. And you cannot own the name of a place. That is a basic rule. It applies to everyone. On top of that, the office said the logo was unclear. The stylized letter did not even read as a letter. So the very first step, owning your own name, did not go through, not once. The front door would not open. It got more crowded from there. A food company that already sells under the name Royal Riviera filed a formal protest. They argued the two names were too close. Buyers might confuse one for the other, so now the brand had a rejection from the office, an arrival in the doorway, and it still had not sold a single jar. Think about that shape. A rejection and a challenge before the first sale. That is not how a smooth launch looks. That is the standard already not being met. So the name changed. American Riviera Orchard quietly became, as ever, a fresh start, at least on the surface. New name, new logo, new chance to clear that front door. And the products finally started to sell. Jam, honey, wine from Napa, candles. This was the part that looked like success. And in sales terms, it genuinely was. But here is the receipt that stops you cold. The name is still not locked down. Let me say that plainly, because it is the heart of tonight. As of this summer, the trademark is still not finished. The office has now granted a second 6-month extension. Read those words slowly. A second extension, not an approval. An extension only buys more time. It means the clock is still running. It means, on paper, this could still fall apart if the filing is not completed in time. The brand you see everywhere still does not fully, legally own the words on its own jars. Sit with how strange that is. This brand has been in front of the public since early 2024. That is more than a year and a half. In that time, it has sold jam and honey and wine and candles and chocolate and even a small leather bookmark. It has launched and relaunched and sold out again and again. The tills have been busy the entire time. Sold out drops, restocks, waiting lists, and in all of it, the one thing still not done is the first thing a business should do. Own its name, the shop is loud, the paperwork is silent. If you read the small print while everyone else reads the headline, hit like for me. It genuinely helps this reach other people who want the record, not the noise. Because now we turn to timing, and timing is where a quiet story gets very loud. So here's the standard again, applied to the calendar. A normal business launches on a business schedule, new season, new product, simple. But watch when these launches actually land. In April, candles arrived, tied to the children's names, and even a wink at the color of their hair, a private family detail, turned into a product you can buy. Then, in the summer, a honey described as a floral gift of summer. Each one sold as a warm, personal moment, and each one, again and again, arriving at the exact moment the family needed a softer story in the news. That is not me guessing at motive, that is a calendar. And you can line it up yourself. This week is the clearest example we have ever seen. Step back and look at what the week actually held. The security story was everywhere. A trip in doubt, a father, his children, and a public fight about who keeps them safe. It was messy, it was not flattering, it was hard. And then, on the 1st of July, right in the middle of all of it, the silence broke. Not with a word about the trip, not with a word about the children, with a jar of lavender honey. $28, a soft image, a gentle little caption about summer. Here is the reading I keep coming back to, and I will mark it clearly as my reading, not a fact about anyone's mind. When the news is about safety and conflict, a product launch does something clever. It moves the camera. Suddenly the story on the feed is honey, not helicopters. It is lavender, not lawyers. The hard story does not disappear. Of course it does not, but for one day it has to share the screen with something sweet. And a sweet story is a great deal easier to sell than a hard one. That is what a well-timed launch buys, not silence. Just a change of subject. Watch the mechanism, because it is the same every time. There is a difficult story the family cannot control. Then a product appears that they control completely. The image is calm. The words are gentle. The comments fill with people talking about honey and jam and where to buy. And the difficult story, just for a moment, slides down the page. The pattern is not loud. That is the whole point of it. It is designed to be the quiet thing in a loud week. When the news gets loud, the shop gets busy. Now let me be fair, because a verdict you can trust never hides the other side. And this side is real. A business does not stop for a bad news week. Real companies plan launches months in advance. Stock is ordered. Dates are set. It is entirely possible this honey was always going out on the 1st of July. The security chaos may have simply landed on the same days by pure chance. That is a genuine possibility, and an honest person has to say it out loud. I cannot see a calendar in anyone's office. I cannot prove intent. I will not pretend to. And here's the other fair point. This brand sells. Products go out of stock in minutes. Whatever you personally think of it, people are buying in real numbers. So this is not a story about a failing business. The money is real. The demand is real. The point tonight is narrower than that and sharper. It is not about whether the brand works. It is about the gap between the warm story it tells and the cool record underneath it. And there is one more receipt worth adding because it changes the frame. This spring, Netflix ended its promotional partnership with the brand. That matters. A big streaming partner was part of how these products reached the world. Then it was gone, and there is no confirmed new season of the show that carried it. So the brand now leans harder on each launch alone, which makes the timing of each launch matter even more. When the outside help fades, the shop has to work harder, and it seems to work hardest on the loudest weeks. So here's the verdict this channel reaches. Read the receipts and decide for yourself, but here is where they point me. The story sold to you is a personal passion, jam from the heart, honey as a gift, home and warmth and family. The paperwork tells a cooler story. A business that, after more than a year, still cannot register its own name. A business that lost its Netflix partner this spring. A business that keeps finding a sweet new product to launch on precisely the days the family most needs the subject changed. I have a short name for that pattern. When the news gets loud, the shop gets busy. Not a scandal, not a crime, not a lie, just a jar of honey with remarkably good timing. And here is the thing about that pattern. Once you have seen it, you cannot unsee it. The next launch will land and you will check the news that week and you will already know what to look for. None of this makes the honey any worse. It may be lovely honey. That is not the question. The question is what the honey is doing in the news that week. Because a passion project and a public relations move can look completely identical from the outside. The jar is the same, the caption is the same. The only way to tell them apart is the timing and the paperwork, and on both, this week, the record spoke louder than the caption ever could. So here's my question for you, and I read these comments closely. When a soft, sweet product launches on the single hardest news day of a family's year, what are you really looking at? A coincidence of the calendar? Or a decision about where you point the camera? You have watched this whole story long enough to have earned a real opinion. So tell me below, what do you think that jar of honey was actually doing this week? And subscribe so you do not miss what this pattern launches next.